happiness, in my opinion, happiness is usually the best feeling that you need to go after. But when you think about it, it takes a bit of effort because people keep wanting to be more happier and they don't know when to stop trying. But you've also spoken about peace. And so I think being at peace is great, but it takes years to practice. Think about the first time anyone ever meditated and whatnot, right? There's always a lot going on, even when there isn't. So I actually think, and I want to get your opinion on it, I think contentment is a goal. Realizing nothing is missing from your life, right? A new car would be good, but you don't need it. A promotion would be nice, but you're not sad without it. It just lets you be in the flow state, that things are coming and going and you're fine either way. How do you think about that? Contentment as opposed to happiness and peace being the goal.
I think it's really hard to discuss these topics because there's no direct path to them. And we all have different visions of what they mean in our heads. And most of the problem, most of the time, is not a path to get there or that we aren't there. It's just that our mind is always in the way. So any technique that you and I were to devise to become happy, our mind would become preoccupied with that technique and it would keep us from being happy. In fact, the pursuit of happiness itself, the direct pursuit of happiness is kind of the surest path to unhappiness. For example, one popular path to happiness is taking recreational drugs. And so then you end up spending all the time that you're not on the recreational drug, craving the recreational drug. So for every moment happy, you spend many more moments unhappy and craving that happy state. So just even chasing happiness can't be done directly. It's a failure. It's a direct failure. So when I talk about happiness and peace and contentment, these are not techniques. These are not systems to get you there. These aren't even systems to get me there. These are just a large collection of personal realizations that I have, which is part of my longing for a peaceful existence. And, and it all kind of seeps into the character of my being, and it helps change my day-to-day experience. But this is not math. This is not science. This is not even knowledge. It's not even transmissible. The only thing that someone can transmit to you in this context is a longing for you to find it yourself. And that longing will perhaps create some kind of a path for you that is unique to you. But if you were to take all my comments on all of these non-material topics, they'd probably sum to zero, just like all wisdom does. It's just not transmissible. So trying to parse another person's wisdom is a fool's errand. If it reminds you of something, if it creates a feeling inside of you that was already there, if it helps have a pointer for you when you're in a difficult period in your life, all of that is helpful. But you can't take this as a to-do list. That is the surest path to failure. Look, if you really wanted to be peaceful and content and happy, however you define it, whether it's equanimity or whether it's joy, whether it's bliss, if that was your number one overwhelming desire in your life, you would figure it out. And only you can figure it out, because it's just a game going on in your head. It's just a series of chemical reactions happening in your head. There's like 15 Navals in this room right now, right? And every single one of them is having a completely different internal experience, even though most of us are having sort of the same external experience of sitting in this room and talking to each other. So there's not much I can say on the topic that makes any sense. There's no to-do list that I can give you. And I know that's unsatisfying, but that's why there's no shortcuts. Look, your own mind is your own filter into reality. So how you have to adjust your filter, and only you know how your filter is set up, and only you can examine why it's set up that way, and only you can evaluate what parts of it that you like and don't like. Nobody else can do that for you.
And that changes over time too. So even for you, for the one Naval, or for me, for Sumaya, I think that definition or that feeling, the time component of it becomes really important. Saba and I think we had the same question around this, so this was helpful. Other people in the room, we discussed, we all wanted to ask questions. So anyone else? Chris, would you like to ask yours?
Sure. So Naval, thanks for joining. This has been sort of a fun, we were discussing before, it's actually less about getting you in the room and the enjoyment that we're having of trying to figure out how to do it. So the fact that you're here is sort of the next step in that enjoyment. So thank you for joining us. So this is a sort of silly question, but I'm curious, do you think we're living in a simulation? And if so, does that even matter?
Yeah, I think it's a meaningless question. All simulation theory